thumbs up, guys, which means it is 5:30, and we are Facebook Live for our board meeting. This is going to be our recess meeting of Tuesday, July the 16th. Our first order of business after I call it to order, which I will do right now, we'll call this meeting to order, is stand for a pledge of allegiance. We will have invocation by Alderman Sistrunk, and then a moment of silence. So if you would please stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alderman Sistrunk?
We're grateful for the opportunity, Heavenly Father, to serve by conducting the city's business tonight. Help us to remember that the decisions we make become part of our community's story, building on the work that's come before and shaping our future. We ask for your guidance. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. This is the fullest house we've ever had, I think, that I can remember anyway, or in a long while anyway. So we appreciate everyone being here tonight. Our first order of business will be the approval of the official agenda with consented items. Are there any changes? Alderman Moreland?
No, ma'am.
Alderman Rupp?
No, ma'am.
Alderman Brooks?
No, ma'am.
Alderman Bailey?
No, Mayor. Thank you.
Alderman Sistrum? Vice Mayor Perkins?
No, ma'am, Mayor. Thank you.
Alderman Vaughn?
No, ma'am, Thank you.
All right, thank you. If not, then I do need a motion for approval of the agenda with the consented items.
So moved.
A motion from Alderman Rupp. Do I have a second?
Second.
I heard Alderman Moreland. A second from Alderman Moreland. If you would please, no, we don't have to do that, do we? Everybody's here. If you would, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. It's unanimous. Motion carries, and I will read the consented agenda items. First is approval of the Board of Minutes, consideration of the minutes of the June 18th, 2024 recess meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Consideration of the minutes of the June 28th, 2024 work session of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Consideration of the minutes of the July 2nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Under Board Business, we have consideration of calling for public hearings to adopt an ordinance on prohibitions of criminal lawyering and aggressive solicitation. Under Finance Administration, we have request acceptance of the June 2024 financial statements. Under the Fire Department, we have request authorization for Training Chief Brian Arnett to travel to Pensacola, Florida to attend the Water on the Fire conference in August at an estimated cost of $1,200. Under Human Resources, we have request authorization to hire Gladys Gibbs as a residential driver in the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. 2, we have request authorization to hire Jared Hunley as a commercial driver in the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. 3, we have consideration of the discipline recommended by Sanitation Director Chris Smiley as a result of IA number 07162024 for the Starkville sanitation worker. Under the Police Department, we have consideration to purchase a used vehicle, VIN number 5415, at a cost of $25,650 from line item 001-000-334-126. And under the Sanitation Department, we have request approval for a Tag Truck Center, the nearest licensed dealer, to repair the 2019 Peterbilt residential garbage truck at a cost of $6,326.98, including parts, freight, labor, and supplies, in that a dealer must perform the repairs. And that does conclude our consent agenda items.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's my pleasure to do that. Next, we come with mayor's comments, and y'all just sit back and relax. I've got a whole bunch of employees to introduce, and I'm always excited to do that. We haven't done it in a while, and so we have quite a number, and so I'm going to get started doing that first off. First, we have HR, which is Amanda Taylor. And all right, Mr. Ashford's going to join Ms. Taylor up here. Ms. Taylor is originally from Canton, Mississippi. She graduated from the University of Mississippi in 2020 with a bachelor's degree in business administration. Prior to joining the City of Starkville's HR team as the HR and payroll coordinator, she worked as the HR coordinator at Pine Lake Church in Brandon, Mississippi. In her spare time, she enjoys exercising, cooking, and spending quality time with friends and family, and she's grateful for the opportunity to serve the city. And we welcome you to the HR department. Thank you. All right, next we have municipal court. So Ms. Larry, bring Ms. White up here. Susan White. Susan is originally from Eupora, Mississippi. Prior to joining the City of Starkville's Deputy Court Clerk team, Susan worked as a probation officer at Court Programs, Inc. She is married to Royce White II and has 2 children, Brandon White and Allison Call. They also have 2 dogs, a Yorkie Poo and a Labrador. In her spare time, Susan enjoys spending time with her family, journaling, being outdoors, and looks forward to becoming a grandparent in January of 2025. Congratulations. And thank you for being here. All right, next we have 2 folks from utilities, and since we have groups coming up next, then we'll just do the first 2, and we can do our applause after that. First, we have Riley Cruz. Riley is originally from Bay St. Louis. He graduated from Mississippi State University with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. Prior to joining the City of Starkville Utilities team as an electrical engineer, Riley worked as a co-op student at Cooperative Energy Telecommunications Group. In his spare time, Riley enjoys going to the gym, watching movies, playing games, and playing the guitar. Welcome, Riley. Okay, Jeremy Kletz. Jeremy is from West Point, Mississippi, a name that's familiar. Prior to joining the City of Starkville Utilities team as a metering lead and copper coordinator, Jeremy worked as a building inspector at the City of West Point. Jeremy is also a military veteran with 8 years of service in the Navy, last ranked in E5. Thank you for your service, and go Navy. Jeremy is married to Lisa and has 4 children, Harrison, Grayson, Jeremy Jr., and Chloe. In his spare time, Jeremy enjoys helping run the Black Prairie Blues Museum. Nice. Thank you, Jeremy. Welcome aboard. Okay, let's try this again. We're going to have, I think, 5 police officers, so we'll hold it to the end, if you would, please. Do we have Chief? Okay. We have, let's start. We have Asher Wade. Somebody's going to need to tell me who's who, so wave a hand. All right. Asher Wade, welcome, is originally from Olive Branch, Mississippi. Prior to joining the City of Starkville's Police Department as a police officer, Asher worked as a 911 dispatcher for Tuckahoe County. In his spare time, Asher enjoys working out and playing video games. Congratulations. Happy to have you here. Next, we have Nayeli Vargas Partida. Did I do that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Nayeli is originally from Russellville, Arkansas. Prior to joining the City of Starkville's Police Department as a police officer, she worked as a teaching assistant at Creative Learning Center. In her spare time, Nayeli enjoys running, hiking, drinking coffee. Jeffrey loves that. Art and traveling. So welcome, Nayeli. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for your service for us. Next, we have Mercedes Reed. Mercedes is originally from Saucier, Mississippi. She graduated from Mississippi State University with a Bachelor of Science in Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture with a concentration in veterinary medicine. Prior to joining the City of Starkville's Animal Control team as an animal control officer, Mercedes worked as a dog salon manager and groomer at the doghouse, playground, and salon. Mercedes is married to Philip Reed and has 3 pets, a German Shepherd named Mando, a golden doodle named Kava, and a long-haired lilac point Siamese cat named Brood. In her spare time, Mercedes enjoys reading, spending time with family, and cooking. Welcome, Mercedes, and thank you. You'll be hearing from me because I call the dog folks often. So happy to have you on board. Thank you for what you do. Next, we have Samuel Zarn. Samuel is originally from Springdale, Arkansas. Prior to joining the City of Starkville's Police Department as a police officer, Samuel worked as a front desk representative at Planet Fitness. Samuel served in the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service. In his spare time, he enjoys working out, researching cars, and watching car shows. Welcome, Samuel. And last but certainly not least, Amanda Maples. Amanda is originally from Natchez, Mississippi. She graduated from Mississippi State University with a bachelor's degree in criminology. She joins the Starkville Police Department as a police officer after completing one of its internships. In her spare time, she enjoys playing sports and video games. Congratulations, and thank you for being with us, all of you.
I've got one more, Cameron Morgan.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
What I was handed, do we have a...
Well, Cameron
Cameron,
was...
why don't you tell us about yourself?
Put him on the spot.
All right. I'm originally from Grenada, Mississippi. I've always had an interest in law enforcement, and I just finally got the opportunity here in Starkville. So I picked up everything I had and moved this direction. In my free time, I fish, hunt, mainly duck hunt. I'm a huge duck lover. And I have a wife named Kaylee Morgan. and I have a cat named Noah.
Okay, well, wonderful. You filled in all the blanks. Thank you so much, and I apologize. Thank you, everyone. And let's see, hopefully I have all the fire names. So we have the fire department next. All right, first we have Bo Holland. Okay, Bo, there you go. Thank you. Identify yourself by coming forward. Thank you. You're originally from Iowa City, Iowa, but you've lived in Kentucky, California, Texas, and now in Mississippi. Bo attended the University of Northern Iowa, where he graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Exercise Science. Following this, he obtained a Master of Science in Sport. I can't say that. Say that. Pedagogy. Okay, good. Thank you. That wasn't going to come off my lips at all. From Mississippi State University. Prior to joining the City of Starkville's Fire Department as a firefighter, Bo worked as a strength and conditioning coach at the University of Iowa, Mississippi State, and Baylor University. Bo enjoys hunting, fishing, training, and spending time with his wife, Ebony, and son, Bo. Welcome. Next, we have Samuel Matthews. Samuel is a native of Starkville and grew up working on a small family farm in Oktibbeha County. He attended and graduated from Starkville Christian School in 2022. He then went on to East Mississippi Community College and recently graduated with an associate's degree in electrical technology. Samuel joins the City of Starkville Fire Department as a firefighter. In his spare time, he enjoys hunting, fishing, and spending time with family and friends. Samuel attends Redeemer Church and will be married this August to his fiancée, Hannah, who is also from Starkville. Congratulations and thank you. Next we have Caleb Jordan. All right, Caleb is originally from Huntsville, Alabama. He joins the City of Starkville Fire Department as a firefighter. Caleb has spent 3 years in the U.S. Army 82nd Airborne. Thank you for your service. In his spare time, Caleb loves to train and compete in mixed martial arts, as well as attend the mosque every Friday. We appreciate you being with us. Christopher McLaughlin. Christopher is originally from Columbus, Mississippi. He attended New Hope High School and continued his education at East Mississippi Community College while playing baseball. He joins the City of Starkville Fire Department as a firefighter. In his spare time, Christopher enjoys spending time with his parents, Chris and Shelley, and sister Reed, as well as hunting, fishing, and any outdoor activities. Welcome, Christopher. And next we have Blaine Tinnick. Is that correct? Tinnick. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you very
How you
much.
doing?
I knew I wasn't going to do well on that. Blaine is originally from Kilmichael, Mississippi. He has 5 children and 3 stepchildren. Prior to joining the City of Starkville's Fire Department as a firefighter, he worked as a firefighter for Winona Fire Department. Blaine is an avid hunter, fisherman, and true sportsman. He has a deep love for wildlife and nature, so much so that it led him to create his own service guide for duck hunting. So we got some duck hunters around here.
That's right.
He enjoys making memories with his family and friends, but most importantly, his children. He has a deep passion for the fire service and would like to thank the City of Starkville for the opportunity to serve, and we thank you as well. So thank you, everyone. All right. And now the few words that I have left to say. We have a big baseball tournament this weekend, which I'm very excited about. It's a collaboration that includes Starkville Academy as well as Starkville High School and our Cornerstone Park. We're going to have the Babe Ruth tournament this weekend, and it goes on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's an extraordinary opportunity for us to showcase our park again this weekend, and we look forward to that. And I don't know of anything else at this point in time, so I will pass it down to Alderman Moreland. Do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
All right, Alderman Rupp?
No, ma'am.
All right. Alderman Brooks?
I did notice an increase in sales tax for the May month, and I guess that may hopefully it has something to do with Cornerstone. I hadn't been keeping up with much show on the terms we still had out there, but that was a nice little boost.
Well, it's a nice bump.
Yeah.
And I do think that it certainly had something to do with it, because that was one of the first months that we had
That's what I
tournaments.
was thinking. So I'm anxious to see, June and July as they come along, but that was a couple $100,000.
It was nice. It was nice.
Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Bailey?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Alderman Sistrum? Vice Mayor? Alderman Vaughn?
Mayor, thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. All right. Next, we have citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for those who wish to speak to the board about any concern, any thought, any compliment. You have 3 minutes to do so, timed by our city clerk, Ms. Harden. And this is not connected to any of the public hearings. The public hearings will be their own entity, but this is a citizen comment opportunity. So, Mr. Turner, always nice to see you.
Good evening. My name is Adam Turner Ward. 7, error to the mayor, to the police chief, to to the fire chief to sanitation. The citizens have a few concerns. The old Mayhew Road is getting to be very unsafe. Don't know whether it's in the city or the county, but they wanted me to mention the old Mayhew Road. Also, another concern is that the apartments on 25 where the 8 people got killed some years ago, people concerned that you only have one way in and one way out. And that's very scary for them, that you have a front entrance but you don't have a back entrance to that complex. Again, let us be very careful about Project 2025. It deals with everything you need to know of being a dictator. And we want that the young guy that sacrificed himself, the 20-year-old, to try to calm things down, but Project 2025 is dealing with a dictatorship, and we need to take it under very concern.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. And while we're talking about that, one of the things I could have talked about, which I did not, and I'll go ahead and do so, is Old Mayview Road is under reconstruction. We are changing the road from the angle at which it enters Eastley Boulevard, and it is in the city, to a 90-degree angle so that it will be safer. So that is a project that is under construction. And throughout town, we are having our paving project going on in Long Meadow neighborhood, in Green Oaks, and in various neighborhoods around. We'll be making some paving projects, and you'll be seeing the results of those. So just let me say that while we're on this subject. Anyone else? Anyone else under citizens' comments? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, I will close it for citizens' comments. We have no public appearances tonight. We do have public hearings. So our first public hearing is consideration of a special exception to allow for use of townhouses at a property located at the southeast corner of intersection of Mockingbird Road and Mississippi Highway 182 at a TN zoning district. And Mr. Haviland, the floor is yours. Is it frozen?
This is SE 2405. This is a request by Pritchard Engineering on behalf of Charlie Morgan to allow for the use of townhomes in a TN-N zoning district. This property is located at the southwest corner of Mockingbird Road and 182. The entire parcel, I think, is around 51 acres. The discussion we're having for this is the 15 plus or minus acres on the far western side. The applicant is proposing to do a townhome development on the western side of the property and single detached dwellings on the eastern side. This concept shows 18 buildings with 6 units each and a total of 108 units with 216 bedrooms. This request is for the use of townhomes. This site plan is not part of the approval. It's just for the use. This is the graphic that the applicant submitted for the discussion. The project was reviewed by the Development Review Committee as part of the request. Comments from that review were submitted in the staff report, and those comments included stuff like protection of the existing watercourse areas, including the vegetation on the site. Traffic impact studies will be required. Wetland delineation will be required. A hydrologic and a hydraulic study will be required for the on-site creeks and streams. And this area could be incorporated into a special flood hazard area. Currently, FEMA is in the process of looking at the entire city and updating the flood maps throughout the city. So on this version of the map, the red area is showing what is called their base level engineering study area from FEMA. So that's the areas, or something in that area could eventually be incorporated into some type of flood zone, or it couldn't. If this request is to be approved, there are 5 staff and planning commission recommended conditions. Those are seen on the screen and on the staff report. The conditions relate to the establishment of the protection of the watercourse area, roadway design for stormwater considerations, construction phasing, and the portion of the site that the townhomes would be allowed on. And that is just the western portion on the west side of the westernmost ditch or swale, creek, whatever that line is. This request was noticed in accordance with the UDC. 16 property owners of record were notified by mail, and a legal ad was published on June 16, 2024. The sign was placed on the property in a conspicuous location. As of this date, we received 17 emails against the request, which were included as attachment 7 of the staff report. And we have also received a petition against the request with 58 signatures, which is attachment number 8 in the staff report. Section 341 of the UDC has the 8 criteria for review and approval, and at the July 9th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission voted 3-2 in favor of recommending approval of the request with those 5 conditions. If there are any questions.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Haviland? Well, I saw Alderman Brooks' hand. Alderman Brooks?
Just one, well, maybe two. Under their conditions, the watercourse areas, is that not part of our new?
Yes, it's part of our the UDC currently. It's just further defining it here and how it will be interpreted.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And
I have a problem with
established.
that, But I did want to make sure that that was part
Yes.
of the new UDC. And in that study area, have you guys looked at any potential wetlands? I've done with wetlands.
I've looked at a wetlands map, the ones that are available with GIS data, but I haven't taken a real deep dive in it.
Okay.
But there are small pockets. It's not a really large area from what I recall.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but there is some potential.
I think there are more areas that are actually off-site to the west, but there were a couple of little areas on-site.
Maybe that just, yeah, okay. And it's probably in that pink area that you've got.
Yeah, I believe all of it was in the pink area. From what I remember, and don't quote me on it, I think there was some along here and maybe a pocket or something down there, but it was really, really small.
But I think across, thank goodness it's out of the city limits, but I think across the line there is
There's significantly more, for sure.
yeah, a lot of wetlands over there. And that pink area is the study area.
Correct.
Okay, so I'd seen it once, but I didn't commit it to memory. So anything in that study area has the potential to be flood zone, but it's not.
Correct. And the city engineer can probably speak more on that. He's been communicating directly with FEMA. I'm kind of getting my information from him.
Okay.
But that is the area that they're studying, and so if there is a additional floodplain or flood hazard area identified, it would most likely be within that study area.
And their potential is for them to release the new flood maps. I mean, the last ones were in May of 2010.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, it's 2025,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's
Did
an actual set hard date. It's just what they're currently predicting.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's about, that's 15 years. Okay. And obviously, if that were to be the case, then we couldn't, I mean, I don't know, you couldn't really develop in that area, or could you?
It depends on what the classification is. If it's just a certain flood zone type and not like a floodway, then there would be some conditions as far as elevation and stuff like that.
Okay, all right. Okay, just want to make sure that's, I just want to make sure I understood the flood state. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Sistrunk?
The request for the special exception, it is limited strictly to the area to the west?
Correct. That is from the discussion in planning and zoning. They wanted to make sure their approval wasn't applied to the entire 51 acres. So right here where this pointer is, there's a line roughly going down the middle of there.
Okay.
And so the condition is everything west of that line to the property line is the area for the use of townhomes.
Okay. And this next question may be more for the city engineer than for you, but the pink area is the area that's under study.
Yep.
There's no guarantee that that will be in, or that it will not be expanded to include more space in there?
Yes, ma'am. So the study area, essentially what you see is FEMA has taken the latest available topography, the LiDAR topography of the city, and they push a 100-year event through it. They don't account for pipes. They don't account for creeks. This is just based on the lay of the land. So somewhere like downtown with lots of pipes and inlets, probably less accurate. I would say the more open and undeveloped an area is, probably the closer this will look like to the final version. That would be my guess. So, but we have not seen elevations related to this, nothing. This is just a wet area of what could be a floodplain.
Could it be larger than that pink area?
Could be.
They could expand it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Sorry, your crystal ball's not working and you don't know exactly what it's gonna look like.
All right, anyone else? Questions of Mr. Havner?
I do have one more question, Mr.
Alderman
Mayor. I'm sorry, Mr. Havner. And this request is for townhouse row housing, townhouses, which is defined in the code as fourplex units. to
It's a
6
maximum of 4 units that are tied together with a common wall, and then they're like vertical units, so it's like a 2-story unit. But it's not a different unit on top of another unit, it's
Okay.
one vertical unit.
Townhouse type.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, and this requires this special exception. It's not a zoning change. I've read a lot of letters, and I think people,
It's just, the discussion was when we were doing all the zoning regulations and the stuff in UDC is whether stuff could be allowed by right, strictly prohibited, or if there could be a process to allow it in a certain situation with a public hearing. And so that's where the special exception and the use exception come from. So it's something that's not prohibited, but it's not allowed by right. And it has to meet those criteria for approval.
it's not technically a zoning change, but it is a process to allow.
Correct.
Something
Correct.
that's
It's a
not
process
allowed
to
by-
allow something. In the past, in our old zoning code, that was an issue where there was constantly rezonings to change the zoning classification to allow for a use. This is a way to mitigate from doing that.
And I did read something in there, though, that said that, under this same zoning classification, that duplexes were allowed, essentially by right, but it requires some additional standards such as.
Correct. If you were doing an entire development, you're allowed up to 15% of them to be duplexes. But with that, the duplexes have to have the appearance of a single-family home so that they fit into the character of the neighborhood. But on this new type development, they're allowed up to 15%.
15, you could do 15% of this development could be.
Correct.
Duplex.
And then the traditional neighborhood existing, which is our current existing neighborhoods, duplexes are allowed by special exception.
Okay.
But here, they're just allowed with additional standards.
Okay. All right. Which doesn't require public hearing.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry.
Alderman Beatty?
Thanks, Mayor. Mr. Havlin, what would happen if this thing's under construction next year and that flood map changes to incorporate all that lower third of that development?
That's where one of the conditions that staff is requesting on here, it is specifically the last condition, is dealing with the phasing of the construction. So if, using this site plan, which this site plan would not be approved, but say they were building these top 3 first, those top 3 would have to be independent. They would have to have all their own infrastructure, including detention, attached to those top 3. And so then as you're building sort of down the hill this way, each phase would have to be a standalone phase. And then if by the time they got to the bottom, there was a new flood hazard area, then that would be taken in consideration of how that bottom phase would be built. Such as a detention pond can't be in a floodplain. Or a certain
Detention
floodplain.
pond can't be in the flood area.
Correct.
Makes sense. Well, if it's permitted, so none of that would be permitted all at one time, no way, that would be allowed?
If it's permitted all at one time, then that's where we would have to take into consideration the hydrologic studies, plus this map and other considerations on where it could be. But if it were, say, magically completed and built before the floodplain study comes out, that would severely impact the property owners who bought into it. Because they would all of a sudden have a house that's in a floodplain that might not meet the base flood elevation, that would increase their insurance rates. It would affect them if they ever tried to remodel their unit, so it would cause a lot of issues.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, and Mr. Burnett too, y'all, aren't floodplains designed to catch and hold water in the event of flooding? Isn't that, well, I mean, I kind of harken back to when the days before they built Highway 25 and Flowwood existed, or didn't exist like it exists now, east of Jackson, Mississippi, and Pearl River didn't flood into East Jackson. But when all that got built up and filled in and built up to the point it is now, that's Pearl River can't go east into a floodplain anymore. It goes west into Eastover, and those neighborhoods, those expensive neighborhoods over East Jackson stuff. So, I mean, isn't that what floodplains are? I mean, floodplains are where water goes and kind of settles, and it's where you get water collects and stuff. And so if that's expanded, that flood zone or area is expanded, that would be expected to be an area where that would just kind of water collects, pools up, and then naturally absorbs into the ground or drains off at whatever, however it drains off, right?
And that's why there's additional requirements when something does fall into a floodplain. It's to take into consideration just that the water will spill over that area. The structures are higher. It's to sort of limit damage to property and life by making sure there's some minimum standard.
I would provide with one clarity. So condition 3 is related to the H&H study we talked about. That study is a very intensive stormwater study, and effectively what it will provide is the flood zones, as it were. It's not a FEMA-recognized study, but what we will walk away with from that study is the wet area for different storm events and the depth of those storm events. And then the condition would allow staff to reasonably work with the engineer to make sure we're designing around those facilities. I'm not going to say not necessarily not in them, but at least the design has been responsible and it's been thought out and managed well. So the H&H study is a flood study. That's what we will get out of that condition.
Anything else? Okay, all right. Anyone else? Oh, Vice Mayor, yes, sir, indeed.
Thank you, Mayor. Just indulge with me on the college for just a few minutes. Mr. Hamlin, thank you. You've been great this afternoon. You're doing great this afternoon, family.
Yep.
Okay, great. Mr. Hamlin, just a few questions. As to this neighborhood, all these residents in Mockingbird, have you had an opportunity to go out to that location?
I've been out there several times, yes.
Have you been out there recently?
No, not in the last month.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Hamlin, that the homes out there are traditional residential single-family buildings?
Yes.
Do you agree with me that at this time there are no structures or units in the Mockingbird location, including the area in question, that involve any high density?
Not to my knowledge. I don't even know of any accessory dwelling units of any kind in that area.
You said not to your knowledge. I mean specific when you were out there last year.
I did not see any of that.
Apartments are not allowed in the zone, right? Apartments are not.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of that on that side of 25, correct?
But on your zoning materials, apartments are not allowed as a matter of right out there, correct? Yes
Yeah,
or no?
apartments aren't allowed at all. In that
They're
zone.
not.
Yeah,
So I'm correct.
yes,
Okay. Triplexes are not allowed in the area, right?
correct,
No multiplex are allowed in the area, right?
correct.
Mr. Hamlin, do you agree with me, even though earlier you answered the question from one of my distinguished colleagues, that there would be no change in the character of this traditional single-family neighborhood building? Would you agree with me that if this board allows 18 buildings, 6 units per building, 216 bedrooms, and about 410 parking spaces, and 405 are required, you agree with me that that would change the character?
Yeah, this layout, that would definitely be a significant change.
I just want to do it for the record. I'm not being technical. I'm building a record here. Do you agree with me that that would be a change in the character of this neighborhood? If
Yes.
all that was existing? Now, just a few more minutes, Mayor. I'm trying to make sure I have all the evidence I need to make a very intellectual decision that I want based on the evidence tonight. Let's talk about three of your criteria, Mr. Hamlin, that you have put in the staff report. Let's talk about the traffic first. Do you agree with me that if this special exception is granted, that it would bring an undue amount of traffic, much more than what is now in the neighborhood?
There'd definitely be an increase in traffic.
And when we talk about traffic, with it being 405 required parking spaces and 216 bedrooms, that would potentially involve a lot of traffic, right?
It would definitely be a increase.
And once we involve that lot of traffic, it could be for a number of reasons. Where the traffic is constant, game day students, the traffic would be more continuous than it would be now.
Yes.
And that certainly supports the evidence of changing the character of the neighborhood.
Yes.
As to your criteria about impacting the neighborhood, and just for the record, let me say, Mr. Hamlin, I asked you a question when you were last been out there, and just for the purpose of the record, I went out there Friday at the conclusion of the work session of the mayor and board, and that was approximately probably 11:35 a.m. As I traveled that neighborhood from my own personal observation, there was a very quiet, family-oriented neighborhood. Nothing was stirred. No traffic. No noise. No loud music. No bumping and thumping. A very exclusive, family-oriented environment. Great environment to raise a child, children, grandchild, grandchildren. Great place for grandmother and grandparents and all the relatives to live there. So I say all that to say, do you agree with me that if this special exception is granted, that will change?
Yes, it will definitely impact it. I mean, you're having development of a higher intensity next to that one, so.
Just a few more questions. The next criteria would be the decline in property value. The homes that I saw out there, it appeared to me that these are homes that were built by good, hard, conservative family members, taxpayers, who detrimentally relied upon living in a very quiet, conservative, country-oriented family home, separate and apart from any disturbances of a high-density structure as a townhouse of 108 units. Do you agree with me that that environment would change?
Yes.
And Mr. Engineer, let me go to you just for a second. You just overlaid with the chip seal. I rode out there and it was freshly chip seal, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And when the city engages in chip seal, that's not the most solid and structurally sound roadway to have, is it? Am I correct?
Vice Mayor, I would say the surface is probably a different quality than the remainder of the neighborhood, but we did expend substantial funding to create a solid base.
My question to you is, am I correct that it is not the most structurally sound roadway to have? Yes or no? In other words, is that a difficult question? Is it better than asphalt? Chip seal, is chip seal the best or asphalt the best?
I would say chip seal as a standalone treatment does not provide the structural support that asphalt provides. Yes, sir.
Mr. Hamlin, let me finish my question with you. So, Mr. Hamlin, thank you, Mr. Engineer.
Yes, sir.
With regard to the availability of services, you understand as a very experienced planner, you have a lot of years' experience, which you agree that our roads and infrastructure are not in an excellent or superior condition at this time to just accommodate a high level of traffic. What's being proposed here with about 410 cars, constant ongoing traffic. Do you agree with that?
I would have to rely on the city engineer as far as the structural capacity, but as one of the conditions and one of the staff requirements is going to be a traffic impact study. And from that study, we'll definitely have more answers to specific questions.
But as to your opinion, from your observation, just from your personal observation, not from an expert opinion, what's your?
Yeah, I would think personally it would probably need to be upgraded at some point with the depth of traffic.
And so all the things I just alluded to are very, are criteria to consider, right?
Correct.
Mayor, let me just ask the city attorney just a question too, if I may.
Certainly.
Mr. Attorney, you're familiar with the case law on this line of, this particular matter. There's a lot of law out on the matter of zoning. And the Court of Appeals handed down a case back on the 25th of July of 2023, Paul Keenum versus City of Moss Point. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that case was decided by the Mississippi Court of Appeals on July 25 of 2023. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in that case, the situation, the factual situation was that there was a request made by the petitioner for a semi-public recreational area to be built in a low-density areas such as single-family.
Correct.
The Board of Adjustment in Moss Point granted that special. They made the recommendation. They had no authority like our board. They approved it to the Board of Aldermen. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the Board of Aldermen approved the property owner's request for that semi-recreational area to be built in a low-density area for a single family. The Board of Aldermen approved that on a 6-1 vote.
Yes, that's correct.
That matter was timely appealed to the Jackson County Circuit Court. Is that right?
Correct.
And the matter was taken up on appeal by the some aggrieved property owners up to the Mississippi Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court obviously signed it out to the Mississippi Court of Appeals. Is that right?
Correct.
And the Mississippi Court of Appeal, they not only reversed the decision, and they didn't remand it back. Remanded back would mean they would have sent it back to the circuit court to issue an opinion consistent with the opinion that was consistent with their ruling. Is that right? That's what reverse and remand mean.
Sure.
But in this case, the Court of Appeal reversed and rendered.
Correct.
And they reversed the circuit court and the Board of Aldermen because that was an area where the board had approved for a semi-recreational area to be in a low-density area.
Yeah, they found it was not a fair and reasonable construction and application of the zoning ordinance.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And finally, Mr. Attorney, the criteria that I indicated through my questioning primarily to our city engineer who has great experience and expertise, all those factors are very relevant factors that will be considered by the court if it goes to the circuit court. The impact on the traffic impact, number one, the decline in property values, and the impact on the neighborhood, the availability of services, and certainly chip seal is not the same as asphalt, because we start with chip seal, then we work up the way to asphalt. That you agree with that, Attorney?
Yes.
Okay, for the purpose of our record. So those are some very substantive factors. I just want to make sure you and I had that dialogue and get on the record that we're in agreement that the factors I pose, and I'm basically doing this just for the record. I know the answer. I want to build a record in case this case goes up. And so I think that if these things go up, the things I raised the questions to tonight, things that certainly would be very supportive if we had an appeal taken up against any negative decision from the board.
Sure, and you went through basically the criteria for a special exception and made good points on it.
And all the things I made points on, they're good points.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Anyone else have any questions of Mr. Howland or Mr. Burnett, since he's standing here before I allow the applicant to come up and provide us information? So, okay, seeing none. Mr. Morgan, do you and your engineer wish to come up?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Clint Markham with Pritchard Engineering, representing Mr. Morgan. This has been a hot topic on this piece of property here. I understand, I've heard some of you have visited the area. You're probably well familiar with it. It's a pretty piece of property and right by the Highland Estate subdivision. understandably, these people are upset that the area is being developed. You know, it's a different zoning on this property than they are. They're zoned for 2 houses maximum per acre. This property is zoned for 8 per acre. I think most of what has been discussed so far has been on development in general, not what we're here, which is solely the use of townhomes. Mr. Morgan's going to develop this property either way. He's allowed 8 per acre. We can do 45-foot lots and fit more houses in. He doesn't want to do that. That's how we ended up with a townhome development to begin with. It's something that's spread across the city. This is a common use exception that's across the city, like Richmond property or Guest Drive. This isn't something brand new. The current site plan shows 108 units. This will likely go down with final DRC adjustments and switch to 4-plex units. If you consider the 8 houses that I mentioned per acre that he's allowed to build, this would allow for 122 detached houses that could be built on this property. This obviously would go down slightly with consideration of the creek and things of that nature. Another topic that's been heavily discussed here is the flood zone. Are we trying to build in the flood zone, trying to beat the flood zone? It's nothing of that nature. It would be the same case if we were building detached homes. They would be placed in the same area that's being studied. We're not trying to beat that. Honestly, construction probably won't even begin until after the maps are put out. This is a long road here. What you're looking at with the condos, which isn't up there right now, is probably roughly a 3-4 year project. It's going to be phased, and the buildings will be smaller. That, as was mentioned before, this will be 4-plexes, not 6-plexes.
Mr. Howland, would you mind putting the map back up just so we'll have a picture, since this is what he's talking about?
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much.
All right. We have allowed, for this zoning, fairly large lots on the eastern portion. Like I said before, we're allowed 45-foot lot minimum. This would be something similar to portico all over the property. Mr. Morgan doesn't like that idea. He believes it's better suited for slightly larger lots with bigger houses. Sort of similar, you know, it's not going to be the exact same as the zoning in Highland Estates, but he'd like to do what he can to get there or towards that direction instead of piling the houses in. He doesn't want to pile them in as tight as he can. He's going to have to meet some kind of density. I'm sure a lot of you have been involved in development. This is his livelihood. It's what he does for a living. He's got to come out with a certain number of units to make enough money. Now, I know some people don't like to hear that, but that is what it is. If this doesn't get allowed, like I said before, he's going to have to shrink the lots on the eastern side, which would be what would be seen going down Mockingbird. Like I said before, he doesn't want to do that, and I'll leave that there. Stormwater flooding issues, traffic issues, and property values were primary concerns noted on the emails from Highland Estates residents and from speakers at the P&Z meeting that we had. Stormwater issues will be the same as detached housing development. This will be handled by engineering department during the DRC review. And I do not believe it applies to this decision at all, with it being just for the use of the townhouses. It would apply at the same way if it was detached houses. However, I do want to mention that the city engineers required additional studies to be completed on the creeks as part of the development to offer additional guarantee against stormwater issues. We don't want to upset any of the Highland Estates residents with stormwater. That's not our intention. Our intention is to better the area. He wants a nice looking development and wants to slow the stormwater down there, have a positive impact on the area. Traffic should also be a non-issue with this area being considered for the townhomes. Both the primary entrance and exit lead out to the highway there, and I really don't see how that impacts the Highland Estates subdivision down there, traffic-wise. Now, there will be more people in the area. That's going to happen whether you have detached homes or townhomes. Property value should only increase as these are higher-end units being proposed here. This has been, like I mentioned before, Richmond happened, and we had the same arguments, Richmond and Oakville. People didn't like the development going in those areas. We had the same arguments, and that didn't hold to be true. Once those properties were developed, property values surrounding went up. While we anticipate a positive impact on the Highland Estates subdivision from this development, Mr. Morgan wishes to address resident concerns by proposing several concessions. One concession that he'd like to propose is implement a building setback from 300 feet from the southern property line and the special exception area. Effectively, this would remove the two southernmost buildings on this site plan being displayed and ensure a minimum separation equivalent to football field's length from the townhome buildings to the Highland Estates subdivision. Another proposal by Mr. Morgan is to eliminate the connector street leading towards Mockingbird from the townhome area. This was a concern from the Highland Estates subdivision residents that was brought up at the P&Z meeting. They didn't like that. I do want to mention all these I'm saying are just what Mr. Morgan proposed. They would have to have input from Mr. Havlin or the city, whoever needs to have input on that. Another proposal was to enforce a density restriction of 4 units per acre for the remaining property to the east, which represents half of the allowable density under the current zoning. He's currently allowed 8. If we could, I don't know how that could work. Maybe a note on this exception here, but cut that in half and say 4 per acre allowed for the rest of the property. That would ensure larger lot areas and, again, get somewhat closer to the Highland Estates subdivision, but it's not ever going to be the Highland Estates subdivision. It's a completely different zoning. And like I said before, I'm unsure of the feasibility and enforceability of these measures as conditions of special exception, but I'm sure Mr. Havlin could give some input on this. That's all I have right now, unless anybody would like to like me to expand on anything or answer any questions.
All right, let's see if that's the case. Anyone on the board wish to ask any questions at this point? Anyone? Mr. Brooks?
So you're proposing, because I know this is an approved site plan, but this is your preliminary, what you put forward. You're proposing to delete those 2 buildings to the south?
See if I can operate this thing here. Yes, sir. At 300 foot, roughly, here's a property line here, somewhere in this area for the Highland Estates subdivision boundary and this property boundary. 300 feet will come roughly in this area where the street is here, and effectively removing this whole area from development for the townhome area. We're trying to get this done and work with the Highland Estates residents at the same time.
So if say half of that pink one turns out to be in the flood study, what's your proposal on the detention there?
Well, I do want to talk a little bit more on what the city engineer brought up. He mentioned briefly about the hydraulic study that we're going to have to complete. This is basically making us do our own FEMA-type study on the area, and we're going to have pretty dead on what the flood zone is going to be. We're not going to be able to put a building, a foot in the flood zone. It's going to be pretty well established before we put buildings out there. And also, I want to point out that this is not a set site plan, as Mr. Havlin said. We're going to have to go through another DRC round, and they're going to have their comments on it. We're going to have to go through wetlands delineation, flood study. We're not just throwing these out there. There's a lot more due diligence to be done.
Yeah, I understand this is a land use thing, but I was just asking that question, because you're looking for a certain number of units out there in some shape, form, or fashion, and you're limited to 4 units per building. So you're proposing that this hydraulic study will essentially establish the flood zone area.
Right, and it may be a case of FEMA comes out with their base flood before we get done with this study. I don't know how that's going to end up on the timeline, but no matter the situation, the flood area is going to be somewhat determined before we build anything or allowed to build anything.
But by moving it up 300 feet, there is a big, I'm looking at the aerial photograph, there's a big, there's a big scope of trees down there just south of those two buildings. Those will be left, and you're not going to.
Right, unless there is some need to have extra stormwater detention. That would be the only reason we touch the trees back there. We're going to try to leave as much as we can. There is going to be a border along that western creek also of trees, so this will be pretty well insulated from the surrounding area with vegetation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Beatty, did I see your name?
Why the high-density development to begin with? That drives revenue, right?
That's what this zoning is
That's right.
designed for. It's 8 units per acre.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this multifamily, I mean condos, but I mean, it's
Yes,
the
so
condo development, that drives the
So
revenue,
we can
right?
hit, Mr. Morgan hit a rough number while allowing larger development on the larger spread lots on the eastern portion. Yes.
So you do this one first because it is, the condos are marketable for bully homes or second dwellings or something, but the market for that type stuff is pretty good right now. And that drives a revenue that would allow you to back off and enlarge the lots and stuff on the other and accommodate the folks in this neighborhood on larger lots and single-family dwellings on the rest of it.
Yes, that's somewhat correct. I think these would be treated just like houses as far as how they're used by the purchasers, the owners.
I mean, I'll wait and get some, I'll probably make some comments after people come up to speak. You'll make, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to have any input or discussion? All right. If you would step back, and I will open it as a public hearing. So we will have, Ms. Harden will time it, we'll have 15 minutes, and I understand that there are a lot of folks here. So I believe that the Homeowners Association for the Highland Estates folks is here. Do y'all have a spokesperson? Okay. Whoever's with the Highland Estates Homeowners Association, would you raise your hand just so we have a general idea who all is? All right. Welcome. We appreciate you being here. Okay, so I will open it as a public hearing. We'll either do for or against. In this case, I will start with against. And y'all are welcome to come speak. Again, Ms. Harden will time you for whatever 15 minutes we have available to you. Okay? And if you would introduce yourself when you do.
My name is Amanda Jacobs. I live at 1256 Sandpiper Drive. If you're looking at this map on the bottom row, my house is the bottom house to the left, or the second from the left, I guess you should say, my left. But I am here to speak against the proposed special exception. I'm along with most of the neighborhood, as you can see here in the room tonight. And I did come tonight to ask that each of you, when you make this decision based on what the UDC says, not what a conceptual site plan says. Under the UDC, for townhomes and row homes, you can build 10 units per acre. That would be 2 fourplexes and 1 duplex per acre. The UDC also says that it can have 3 bedrooms, possibly 4, if the board approves it. The current portion of the property wanting townhomes is 15 acres. Now, if we do that math, 15 acres, it's roughly 100. Within the UDC, that's roughly 150 units, 3 bedrooms apiece. It's 450 people just on that one portion of property. I know it has been discussed that the special exception only apply to this portion of the property. I would just like to make it clear whether this is voted for or against it, whether that truly is. How would you, I guess, legally divide one parcel of property? And so if the special exception is approved, I would just want it to be approved with the restriction that is only that 15 piece of acres. Now, if the whole property, which is, again, roughly 50 acres, if it is developed for those single-family dwellings, based on this chart I got here from the UDC, it says Each lot size is limited to, in a traditional neighborhood new, is limited to 5,500 square feet. So that actually comes out to 7.92 homes an acre. Since you cannot build a home less than the minimum, that would have to be rounded down from 8 to 7 homes an acre. And so if you had 7 homes an acre, 50 acres, we're going to assume 3 bedrooms an acre, that ends up being 1,050 people. So and again, that's the whole 50 acres. Overall, though, the numbers for single-family dwellings would still be lower than townhomes with the combination of the two. And when we're talking about this density, it's just important to understand what the realities of approving this special exception could allow Mr. Morgan to legally do within the UDC. And so in addition to looking at this, I also like to look at part of the UDC section 13.55, the dwelling, townhouse, row house. Under the additional standards, it states, if the townhouse is located in or adjacent to an existing neighborhood of detached houses, which is what this property is connected to, the townhomes shall be architecturally harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood in regards to massing, materials, fenestration, and scale. If townhomes are approved, we request that any approval has restriction regarding specifically the massing and the scale, because that's what one of our biggest concerns is, the density, to ensure that the architectural harmony is maintained, because our lot, as we've discussed, we're roughly an acre a house. I know that's a different, from what's being developed, but we just ask, not that it has to be one house per acre, but something that's more closely aligned, not the 7 homes per acre, or not the extreme density that's proposed in the townhome development site. We also believe that if there's restrictions on the density, that would also help with some of the traffic concerns. And I know there's kind of back and forth on the traffic, but either way you look at it, right here on the property, you can actually see at the top of this map where Mockingbird is, just to the left of the Mockingbird. Highway 182 goes from a 4-lane to a 2-lane. It's a literal bottleneck. Add, that extra 1,000, 1,500, depending on what types of homes are built. Either way you look at it, that increase in traffic is going to be an issue for us just trying to pull out of our neighborhood. And so, while we may not have people riding through our streets, we are going to be impacted because of a true literal bottleneck, and people are already speeding, either coming into the highway or you're coming to the city limits or coming out, trying to speed up to get out. And so we already have, police sit out there regularly to try to slow down the traffic. So density is a concern, traffic is a concern. And aside from that, the environmental impact that we've talked about. So the creek that we're speaking of, it runs directly behind Sandpiper Drive, and it divides Sandpiper Drive from the development property. And so in a few moments, I'm going to ask our city planner, Mr. Havlin, to show you guys a video that I took in my backyard. This was during a very heavy rainstorm. I will admit that, very heavy rainstorm. But this video, so you can see my house right there. There are pieces of it that are in this proposed flood zone. Not my whole house is in the flood zone. So when we look at this video, I want it to be known that if my yard floods that way and I'm not in the red, what will the yards look like who are in the red? And what type of liability will the city have, will the city services have on any type of development that comes forward? And one more thing I do want to point out, because it was briefly mentioned, the trees, the vegetation, you're going to see in a minute in the video, because this video was taken January 11th of 2020. There are a lot of deciduous trees there, handful of evergreens, but fall, spring, winter, we can see through them. They can see it, through it to us. So, Mr. Havlin, will you play the video? Oh, I would also like this video to be part of the public comment as well.
And when was this again?
January 11th of 2020. And this was also before the property to the west of us, which is county, I know, but there was a lot of trees. At that time, those trees have since been removed, so water flow is even greater. All right, and then just a few more things, and then I'll yield my time. But we have spoken to various city representatives, and one of the things we asked was regarding structure, like residential structures, what does our city need? And we were told very specifically that we need more single-family homes, not units, something that's affordable, between $250,000 to $350,000. And if that is what this property is currently zoned for without any type of special exception, if that's what the city needs and that's what we're requesting, why are we going through a special exception request to begin with? And so in closing, I know each of you guys are the voices of the citizens of Starkville. I know you also have a fiduciary responsibility to the city of Starkville for the services and things that are going to be incurred. And so with the facts, the UDC, the environmental impact, and the city's need for more affordable housing, I think voting for a special exception would be a major oversight of the fiduciary responsibility each of you have. So therefore, again, I'm urging you to vote no to the special exception. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. You want to cut the light? No, guys, no. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? Well, how many minutes do we have left, Ms. Harden? 7.5 minutes left. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? I'm sorry, against. Against, I'm sorry.
Good morning, or good afternoon,
Good afternoon, Mr. Carter.
depending on where you're living. But it affects us right here because we live directly behind this area. And as a resident of this neighborhood,
If you would say your name for the record, please.
Jesse Carver,
Thank
Starkville
you.
citizen. I was asked by the neighborhood to stand up, and we probably have a third of our neighborhood here due to different reasons, but everybody is here. And what they want us to do is just go through, and I apologize to the Zoning and Development Advisory Committee because we were misinformed by a lot of the stuff. We were chasing rabbits down that hole. So the whole lining stuff, the numbers, it gets confusing. But what we know as a neighborhood is what we know as Starkville citizens is just going back to the basics. Site suitability. If you'll pull back up the list of what it is. Site suitability. Does it fit contextually with the surrounding area? No. Go down to 2, traffic. Go in and you're talking about vehicular traffic and the literal bottleneck. What Amanda failed to mention is sunset and sunrise. Leaving the neighborhood, driving down 182, you're literally driving into the sun. Either way, depending on what time of the day. At that point in time, we're not even going to talk about people texting on the phone. We're talking 2 hands looking at the road. You've got people from an on-ramp to get on to 182 off of Highway 25. You'll go to the map. That way people know. I know it because I do it. So top right of the screen, you got Mockingbird, but just over there you got 25. You come off of 25, merging on, you have to cross over 2 lanes of traffic to get into a drive to take a left on the Mockingbird. At that point, you've got people going from, they're changing speeds and they're jockeying for position to get into the 182. So on the reverse side, like Amanda spoke, but what we're doing is, at this point, you're bottlenecking to where people can get in and they're having to slow down traffic from 55 miles an hour down to almost nothing at that point in time on a 2-lane highway. I asked the board to consider that disastrous. What would happen if a vehicle wreck? The wreck happens at that speed, from a 0 to a 55 mile an hour. So traffic, immediate neighborhood impact. All that's kind of opinion, but it's we'll just go to the next one. Number 4 is adequate stormwater. As we saw from Amanda's video, no storm drains are going to catch all that. And you're planning, if you go back in the flood zone, what I was just noticing down in the bottom left, the bottom far left, is you've got red even on that side of the creek, and we don't want another Country Club Estates happening where you've got disaster going on. And then we'll just bump into number 7. It's inconsistent with the comprehensive plan of Starkville. The zoning committee did a good job. When they went for traditional new neighborhood, they had it right. they've done a good job. We've prevented a lot of undue structure being built, turned into offices in neighborhoods. What we're doing here is it's inconsistent with this stuff. And then we'll get into industrial standards, going back to architecturally harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood. It's not. Not in density, not in materials, not in design, and not in scale. None of it is. Two, I'm not going to harp on traffic, but that's another thing. And then, anyway, I just want to put out there that we apologize to go in the zoning and development, just going around the circle there. We didn't know what we were really talking about, but tonight, as a neighborhood, we vote no, and we ask that y'all vote no too for this special exception.
Thank you, Mr. Carver. All right, no, unnecessary. Thank you very much. All right, anyone else against? Because we have 3 minutes left. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right. I will go to those who might wish to speak in favor. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this project? Anyone? You want to come back and, okay?
One issue that was discussed by, I think, all of the ones that came up here against was traffic. I do want to point out that part of the exception, one of the requirements for that is a traffic study. This is to be done for MDOT because we're tying to their highway, and also for the city engineer has required that. And that'll ensure safe. However we do it, it's going to be safe because it has to be reviewed by both the engineer and MDOT for that, so they wouldn't allow something that was ridiculous out there. I also want to say just every point I've heard is valid. The stormwater is valid. Flood area is valid. But I think it's all things that would be handled at DRC, and they also would apply to the detached houses as well. I think, the sole purpose of this meeting is to allow or not allow the use of townhomes. I wish every one of you to ask all these points that they brought up, would that still apply to 8 houses per acre put out there if it was detached? I think a lot of them would still apply. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions for me.
All right, thank you. We'll get past the public hearing and then you're welcome to.
Two questions to the engineer.
This engineer? Our engineer. This engineer. Okay.
8 houses per, what is zone for right now?
Yes,
8
sir.
houses.
Yes, sir.
What you're proposing is, if y'all build that thing with those 2 less units, you cut that down to 4. Is it 4?
Yes, sir. These are going to be 4plexes. Maximum is required by the stipulations.
4plex is not 4 single-family homes on per acre. 4plex.
Oh, yeah, yes. What we were proposing for the concessions that Mr. Morgan has proposed, we proposed cutting that in half to be 4 per acre for the remaining property.
Now, I know that people buy these condominiums and these townhomes, the ones that were in the packet that y'all have built before, as primary residences, but generally speaking, they do not. These are second homes. So what you've got in this area is you've got a neighborhood full of single-family dwellings as people's primary residence. West of this neighborhood, the next street, new street to turn into, has got 2 brand-new homes backing up to that property, 2 or 3 across the street. That's about to be a single. That whole area is single-family neighborhood homes with yards and people who are permanent residents that live there 365 days a year. And this is not. It doesn't mean it's going to be good or bad. It just means these are not going to be full-time residents. The ones over that y'all showed the pictures of, the west of Stark Road, and those are mostly, I'd say 75% not primary residences. Those are not people that live in Stark on those. So it is changing. It would change the nature, the tenor, and change that area, the makeup of that area from a single-family dwelling
neighborhood with yards and people live there year-round to something different, even if you develop the front part to in a more traditional way. And I can see the concerns that people here have for that, because they have something really nice out there and are very concerned about, and I'm putting words in their mouth, but I've listened to two folks that come up and spoken. They have something that's really nice, and we've seen stuff go south in Starkville in other areas where the development encroaches on the on neighborhoods, and then it changes. And so I see the concerns.
All right, let me go ahead and see if there's anyone else for, because we're still in a public hearing phase, and I apologize for making this a little confusing. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this project? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll close it as a public hearing, and now if anyone else has any other questions of any of our experts or the applicant, now would be an opportunity. So anyone else have any discussion, any questions of any of our sources, any discussion among ourselves? Let me see if I get a motion first. Do I have a motion of any kind? Alderman Sistrunk.
I can discuss a little bit.
Yes, you may. We will absolutely, we'll discuss after we get a motion in a second.
Okay, my motion will be to deny the special exception to allow for the use of townhouses at the property located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Mockingbird Road and Mississippi Highway 182 in a TNN zoning district.
Okay, I have a motion for denial. Do I have a second?
Sorry.
I have a second from Alderman Beatty. All right, now discussion. Alderman Sistrunk.
And I would just like to put some meat on the bones, as our city attorney has liked to say, about why I'm proposing that we deny that request. And going down the criteria for a special exception and review, we'll start with site suitability and whether this fits contextually with the surrounding area. It certainly doesn't fit with the neighborhood behind it. It also is not necessarily compatible with what we would want as the western entrance to the city on Highway 182. That will forever be the western entrance into 182. And while it will be townhomes, most people won't be able to distinguish between that and an apartment complex, and the back of those buildings is not necessarily going to give us the look that we want as we come into the city. Traffic, development just comes with some traffic problems. I live in a neighborhood, I live in Long Meadow, and while it's generally, while traffic is never easy getting out of Long Meadow, there are times of day, particularly in the early morning and the later mid-afternoon and later, where it's very difficult to make a left turn out of our neighborhood. And Highway 25, Old Highway 25 Louisville Street probably doesn't see much more traffic, if any, than Highway 182 does. So I do think it will create a bottleneck. I see it in my neighborhood, and I'm sure it would flow over into that particular area as well. That's a neighborhood impact that's related to the traffic, but it will be a pinch point for the neighborhood. The stormwater requirements addressed under point D, the city will not be able to address that, and it would obviously be the developer that has to address that. I have serious concerns about addressing those. Even when I represented Ward 2 a few years ago, there was flooding in that area that we saw the video of, and I think it just continues to get worse as development occurs upstream and as the rain events that we see are more intense and more intense and sometimes longer duration. The site plan, we're not here to approve the site plan, so I'm not going to speak to that. Consistency with the comprehensive plan, we noted earlier that an apartment complex would not be allowed in that zoning area. As I mentioned before, most people would not be able to distinguish what was shown as an example from an apartment complex. And so I think just applying some common sense to, does this fit with the consistency with the comprehensive plan? It does not. Additional standards could be added to try to make this work, and I think that's what happened at the P&Z meeting. I think the P&Z meeting was trying hard to find a way to make the project work. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I think it could be developed in a way that would be beneficial to the neighborhood, to the city, to the developer. This is not necessarily the development that does that, and I think the split vote, I think the conditions that were imposed at the P&Z meeting, the conditions that have been brought up by our staff indicate that there's a lot of concern that this development as requested will fit, will work. And that's my reason, like the vice mayor, I'm trying to give that meat on the bones about why my motion was to deny the request. It is a beautiful piece of property. I would love to see it developed in a way that enhances that area.
All right, anyone else? Alderman Rupp.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I can't support the plan that was submitted, but I recognize the developer has a right to develop the property and has said he's going to develop the property. And we need housing. And you also, Mr. Morgan, have a good reputation as a builder, so I'd like to see you build single-family homes in there. I've also heard that there may be some wiggle room, so I hope there is some sort of plan that you can bring before us down the road that we can all get behind, but I can't support this one.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, seeing no further discussion, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, that would be Alderman Brooks with a nay. All right, so the motion to deny the request for the special exception passes. And next we move to a public hearing for consideration under 21-19-11 that the parcel of the building located at 200 Pilcher Street with parcel number 1180.002.00 is in such a state of uncleanliness as to be a menace to the public health, safety, and welfare of the community.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight. We'll let them clear out.
I know why you
All right, Officer Perez. Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, now we've got a clear road. We're good. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Aldermen. I'm here today to discuss consideration for 21-19-11 on property at 200 Pilcher Street with parcel number 1180-00-002.00. This property is owned by Jimmy Clyde Traynor. On June 5th, my first inspection of the property showed the property having extensive damage on the outside of the structure. A letter was sent on June 6th notifying Mr. Traynor of the violations. On June 10th, a second inspection of the property showing no changes at that time. A public hearing notice was posted at City Hall on June 25th and at the property with Mr. Traynor on June 25th as well. The structure shows no change to the structure at that time from the outside. However, Mr. Trainer was on the property on that date, and he was removing things from the inside of the structure to prepare it for demolition, is what he stated. On June 25th, I also mailed certified letter of the notice of the public hearing to the property owner, Mr. Trainer. On July 3rd, Mr. Trainer signed a permission to search for taking photographs of the inside of the structure as well as on the property. The permission to search was explained to Mr. Trainer and to his daughter, Keone Trainer, over the phone. Mr. Trainer had a stroke, so it's hard for him to understand some things sometimes, so she was on the phone with me the entire time. A demolition permit was taken out by Mr. Trainer on June 25th, and the interior demolition of the structure had begun. On July 8th, I returned to the property to take final photos. The outside of the structure at that time was still in the same condition. That's all.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions of Officer Perez? All right, Mr. Trainer, is Mr. Trainer here?
Yes, he is. I will be speaking for him.
Yes, ma'am, if you'd like to, you come on up.
Yes, sir. My name is Patsy Trainer. I'm Jimmy's baby daughter. He had a stroke back here prior to everything, but we have got everything cleaned out. He's on a fixed income. We got the outside done, we got the inside done, and we got pictures showing that everything has been completed. He was trying to save the home because it's our childhood home. If we want to look, the structure is still good, and his plans was he wanted to redo it. What we're asking for, would the board please grant my father enough time to get everything done? Or if he cannot get everything done, could we have at least about 120 days or 90 days to get it removed?
So, Ms. Trainer, what is it he wants to do? We're talking about removing it at this point in time?
Honestly, what do you want? Do you want to remove it, or do you want to continue to try to? Because he fixed the inside board. The inside was redone, but once we got the letter, he was like, we got to get everything done. So all the family was trying to get everything gutted out, everything torn out. So we have photos showing that it was completed, better than the ones that was there on the phone, on the picture. And we have the photos of the construction before me.
Okay, so are you planning to demo it?
Do you want a demo, or do you want to try to fix it? Would y'all be able to give us time to get everything done?
I don't believe 120 days is going to do it for you, just in terms of the time, but that's up to the board. But I'm just trying to make sure we see what it is you want to do so that we'll have something to work from.
What would you like to do, Judge?
Okay, so demo it?
He would like to try to save the trailer.
Okay, so what kind of proposal would you like to make to us, for us to consider as a part of this for?
How long do you think that?
Okay, I tell you what, y'all go back and talk if you would.
Yes, ma'am.
Any question on Sister?
And I would say the exterior is going to be more important to us immediately than the.
He did it. We did the inside first.
Right.
Because once it slipped, we had to rebuild it back up from the inside to put the concrete bricks back up to level it out.
Okay.
So, that was our main thing, but he focused on the inside more than he did the outside. And due to his age, he's 68 years old. You know, so, you know, praise God that my dad's still here from his stroke and everything. So we're trying to get everything together. But he do wants to save the home, our childhood home.
Okay, if you'll go back and just chat with him a little bit.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Alderman, anything else before I open it as a public hearing? All right, Alderman Bacon.
Rehab the home with the intention of moving back into it and living in it as a primary dwelling?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Vaughn?
120 days,
I realize that, which is why, let me get the public hearing part done, and then we'll see, let them consider what they want to do. And we'll get the public hearing done. If you'll go back and chat with your father.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll do the public hearing, and then we'll close it as a public hearing and go into some discussion, and we'll seek your understanding of what you'd like to do.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
how about that? Okay. All right, I will open it as a public hearing. Now is the opportunity for anyone either for or against. This is to determine whether the building located at 200 Pilcher Street with a parcel number 11800002.00 is in such a state of uncleanliness as to be a menace to the public health, safety, and welfare of the community, and such that the cleanup of the property should occur. Do we have anyone either for or against? Either for or against? All right, seeing none, I will close it as a public hearing. Discussion among the board. First, Alderman Sistrunk.
I don't know exactly who to direct this question to, but there are people here who know a lot more about construction than I do. And is it possible to rehabilitate this property?
Well, Steen, Mr. McMullen, would you come up here, please, sir? I believe you've been on site, is that correct?
And I know that anything can be rehabilitated,
Right.
given enough time and money. But is it reasonable to expect that this could be rehabilitated?
It is basically a mobile home, so it would take a lot of time, a lot of money to get it to that point, yes. And just looking at these pictures, yes, it would take a lot of effort to get it there. Reasonable time, I mean, it depends on how many people they have working there. You could probably do it in 6 months, but it's still going to be really, it'd probably be cheaper to build a new home than to rehab that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions of Mr. McMullen while we've got him up here?
If,
Alderman Beatty?
thank you, yeah, I'm sorry. If Mr. Trainer were to try to rehab the house, it'll have to be re-inspected before occupancy, right?
Yeah, based on these pictures, he'd had to pull a permit on everything because of everything, electrical, plumbing, everything would have to be redone, and everything would have to be inspected.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. McMullen. All right, Ms. Trainer, if you would come up. So it sounds to me as though you would have quite a chore to get it done in any period of time that's under 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it is going to be costly. And I'm assuming that you would need to hire a contractor because clearly your father would have some difficulty doing that work himself. So it strikes me that this demolition would be the option that would be the most wise.
Okay.
But it is for you guys to tell us what you'd like to do and for the board to decide if they wish to allow you that latitude. So,
Will we be able to get at least 120 days before we can move it?
before
Get
you what?
it tore down or move it or?
Well, if the city declares it as a menace, the city can go in and do demo. We would then put a lien on the property for the
No.
cost of us doing that.
No, we don't want that.
Okay.
We will do it ourselves.
Okay,
But we just need more time than what is offered.
okay. So you're asking this board for 120 days to complete the demo?
Yes, ma'am,
Is that
or whatever
correct?
is convenient for you guys
Well,
to offer us.
okay. All right, well, I tell you what, we'll take that discussion and we'll see if there's a willingness of the board to give you that 120 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? All right, thank you, ma'am. Alderman Vaughn.
Ms. Turner, do you actually think 120 days would be enough?
To demo it,
I mean, whatever they're trying to do,
they're talking about demoing.
They said we're gonna have to tear it down, so, would y'all be able to give us more time to get everything? I don't know exactly.
Alderman Vaughn? Yeah. If it's actually a menace to public safety and welfare, then 120 days is a fairly generous amount of time. But this is up to the board. So Alderman Vaughn, do you want to make a motion or you want to continue to inquire?
I'll make a motion. I said 4 months, to get it in.
Okay.
Due to his health.
Okay, I understand. All right, so you'll make a motion, you want to make a motion to allow for 120 days for completion of the demolition. Is that correct? Okay. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll make such, I'll make,
All right,
make a
Alderman-
motion. Excuse me,
Alderman-
I got wordy with it.
That's okay.
I make it, I second.
All right, I have a second from Alderman Beatty. Any further discussion? Alderman?
I do, because I
Alderman
kind of
Moore.
feel like they're torn on what they want to do, and I know, and I hate to do that with their family home. I don't know if it's even an option to table it till they can get a plan till next, if that's a possibility, but I don't want to force them to make a decision without understanding everything right now. And you can tell with the look on their face, they're not understanding. I don't think they've got a plan together, and I kind of, is there a way
I have a
to?
motion, I have a motion and a second right now. So,
Not in favor.
are you,
No.
no, okay. Vice Mayor Perkins.
Just being recognized, Honorable Mayor, I was thinking that the Alderman was offering a motion to table it if, in fact, I'm not saying she did, but if in fact she were, that would take the question.
Yes.
Cut off the date.
Yes.
Be ready to go on. But I just want to call it.
No, I appreciate that. I didn't actually get a motion out of it,
No,
but I
I
think that was a discussion. But I appreciate that. Thank you, yes. All right,
That,
all right.
I'm new,
Al-
so I don't know if that's a
Alderman Beatty, I
question.
saw your hand.
Ms. Trainer, I speak to Mayor, would you understand that after 120 days, we've got to do something with the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so 120 days would be the time for you folks to be substantially moving forward on a rehabilitation where our city inspector, Mr. McMullen, could look at it and see that you're moving in that direction, or either have it, or either.
Demolition is what we're
Okay.
talking about now, so.
Well, demolition but I don't think per Alderman Moore, I don't know whether the trainers know what you want to do with. Am I putting words in your mouth, or is that?
No, sir, we actually wanted to try to save it, but we'll get it from up there.
But after 120 days, we'd have to do, the city have to do due diligence.
Yes,
Move
sir.
forward with the demolition of it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the process where it would be assessed on your taxes, for so many years, that kind of thing, the cost of recouping that for the city. So you okay with that? Alderman Vaughn with your motion?
Well, let's circle back here for a second, because there's an opportunity if, I'll recognize you a second, there's an opportunity if you want to amend your motion to reflect either a demolition or a building permit that would provide substantial progress within 120 days. Sir?
Let's go with that motion.
With the one you got?
No, the one you.
The one, okay.
The building permit?
I don't get to make motion. Okay, okay.
No, but it's he's not gonna be able to do it in 120.
Well, I understand, but if there is a,
All the one behind and one, you gotta look on the same thing.
I couldn't hear you.
okay, all right, so demolition or significant progress on a building permit and construction
Yes, sir.
after 120 days.
Oh,
I'm coming to you, Alderman Sister.
Thank you, Lord.
Okay, would that be acceptable to you for the second? Okay, all right, Alderman Sister.
Okay, and I'm gonna take up Alderman Moreland's idea of tabling this for tonight, not making a decision tonight, and give them the 3 weeks between now and our next board meeting to get a plan together, to figure out what it's gonna cost, because I think as you get into the idea of what it's gonna cost to fix it, demolition is gonna probably be where you're gonna end up, but it's not for me to say.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
understand that it's sentimental, that it's the family home, but sentiment has a cap on value. So,
So are you making a motion to table?
so I will make a motion to table this until the first meeting in August.
I've got seconds everywhere. Vice Mayor, I'll provide you that second. I have a second from Vice Mayor Perkins. All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Hold it. All right, Alderman Brooks, discussion.
Just one thing, and Alderman Morton's is a contractor, and I've bought numerous foreclosed houses and rebuilt them, and never one in that kind of shape. It's you got a big task ahead of you.
Yes, sir.
You got 3 weeks now, and not only the cost, but just getting the work done. But you got 3 weeks to try to come up with a plan. But just don't be shocked, because it's going to be a tough hill to climb with that house in the situation that it's in.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Warren can tell you the same. It's a contractor, so we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's going to be tough. That's it, Madam.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor, I didn't see your hand, did I, Alderman Rupp? Okay. All those in favor, this is to table until August the 6th. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. It is tabled until August the 6th. Well,
Thank
do come back with a plan.
Yes, ma'am. God bless everyone.
Okay.
Because we'll make a decision.
All right. Next, we have public hearing consideration of 21-1911 for 12850 Mississippi Highway 182. Officer Perez.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Aldermen, here to present for consideration for 21-1911 property at 12850 Highway 182 with parcel number 159J-00-025.000. This property is owned by a corporation, VIP, which is showed in the Secretary of State website that the company is owned by Frank Williams, Virginia Williams, and James F. Williams. On May 29th, first inspection of the property shows the overgrowth of the property as well as multiple dilapidated structures and trash accumulation across the property. On June 6th, letters were sent to all 4 of those listed owners. And on June 10th, I returned to the property. The property was still in the same state. On June 25th, I posted public hearing notices at City Hall, as well as on the property, and mailed certified mail to the listed owners. The photos taken from the roadway show the same state, overgrowth and dilapidated structures on the property. On June 27th, I met with Mr. Frank Williams on the property, and he signed a permission to search and accompanied me throughout the property. Photos of 7 mobile homes on the property. Series number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6, and number 7. Accumulation of items, trash, and items holding stagnant water throughout the property. On July 8th, I returned to the property, and photos show that no progress had been made to the appearance of the property.
I'm assuming no one is living in those trailers.
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, any questions of Officer Perez? All right, seeing none, I'll open it as a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak either for or against the determination of this piece of property being in such a state of uncleanliness as to be a menace to the public, and such that cleanup of the property should occur, now would be the time, either for or against. Either for or against. All right, seeing none, I will close it as a public hearing. Do I have a motion one way or the other?
Mayor, I'll make such a motion.
Thank you, Alderman Beatty. To declare that it is a public menace such that cleanup is appropriate? Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Moreland. All right, any other discussion? Alderman Beatty.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
our code department doing a really good job of identifying and bringing to us properties that need to be condemned. We about to get a bunch of stuff on backlog that's gonna fall in our lap for us to have to demolish and haul off site and stuff. We're gonna have to have a demolition department in the city just to handle it. I mean, we do have a lot. What about going forward? I mean, the expense that we're going to bear, I mean, do we have in our budget, we have money?
We have put it in the budget, but we also are putting liens on property. Hopefully, Mr. Huskisson will help us claim about $4,000 that we
It takes a
have.
long time to recoup your money through that process, right?
Well, yes, it does. It does. But we do want to clean up the city.
We do, and, but we have adequate funds to be able to do this, and.
Well, we may have to
look.
revisit we're doing it obviously in-house, so a lot of it is internal work. So it's a not a quid pro quo, that's not the word I want, it's in-kind.
Okay.
In-kind services that we will then claim back, but it's being done by our street department for the most part.
Let me ask you one other question. Just what, if there are materials that are not necessarily the type of materials you want on site, is a discovery after we get into something like that? I mean, what?
You're talking about
Asbestos.
like brownfield? Well, we check for asbestos.
Asbestos and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah,
okay,
we have to
all
do our Fire Marshal McCurdy will go and check for asbestos in each one before we do any kind of demo, absolutely.
But that adds to the cost if we find asbestos on site.
If we have to do an abatement, yes.
Abatement or-
We've not found ourselves in that condition yet.
Okay, all right. My motion stands.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Officer Perez. And Officer Carruthers, you as well. All right, so next we go to engineering, which is our project, which is really exciting. So this is Mr. Burnett, you want to come up? This is the consideration of the Burns Dirt contract for our 182 revitalization project. A long time coming, and we're delighted that we have not only the bidder, but we have the funds. So, any questions of Mr. Burnett? Okay, do I have a motion to approve this?
Move approval.
I have a motion from Alderman Sistrunk. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Moreland. Any discussion? Any questions of Mr. Burnett while we have it? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It is unanimous. This is a nice day. So, Mr. Burnett, anything about the second one, the lower quote from Econ on the University Drive Montgomery intersection?
No, ma'am, we just held it off because we waited on those, the two quotes, we received those, so that's
Okay.
why it's not on consent.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Alderman Moreland, I hear that. Do I have a second? Second. Second, Alderman Rupp. Okay, no questions of Mr. Burnett? No discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. And Finance Administration, I believe this is our last. Yes, it is. Claims docket, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Rupp. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Brooks. Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Let me read my,
Thank y'all so much on that, on Picture Street. Mayor, over right across from your, Alexander Drive,
yes, sir.
we had trouble out here with, that's his too, Alexander Drive. Right when we get ready to come in the intersection,
I didn't know that. Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
him having a stroke, and we had him before. I don't know who came, but we didn't let him know about that on the plan, like y'all just right.
Yes.
I think you know that.
I didn't remember that.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, let me do the call for the work session, please, before we do I believe we're going to end up adjourning, aren't we? In accordance with the notice required under Mississippi Code annotated 254113, the board will have a work session on Friday, the 2nd of August, 2024, at 11 a.m. Meeting will be held at City Hall, second floor conference room located at 110 West Main. Notice should be provided of the work session within 1 hour of the meeting by posting such notice at City Hall. The notice should be made a part of the minutes of the board. The work session will be an open public meeting of the City of Starkville, and the public and press are invited to attend. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Vaughn. A second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Rupp, I believe. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
All right.